Ever dash through a downpour, clutching slippery pizza boxes, shoes soaked through, while your sibling partied with money they didn't earn? That was me, Ellie Harper, just trying to survive. But one rainy night, a gut-punch betrayal from my family and a chance encounter turned my world upside down. Want to know how I went from invisible to unstoppable? Stick around, Yuka, you won't see this twist coming. I'm Ellie Harper, 24 years old, scraping by in a small Ohio town. My days are a grind-up at 4:30 up to sling coffee at Brewed Awakening, then racing to Tony's Pizzeria to deliver pizzas until midnight. Every dollar goes to rent, bills, and the mountain of student debt I'm drowning in. Meanwhile, my brother Jake, 26, lives carefree, bankrolled by our parents. Tom and Linda. They swear Jake needs extra support to succeed, while I'm told I'm strong enough to handle things on my own. Our home, a tidy 2-story in a middle-class neighborhood, looks like the American dream. Neat lawn, friendly neighbors, the works. But inside, it's a different story. Growing up, I was always in Jake's shadow. At 8, I won second place in a school art contest, beaming with pride over my painting. I waited for Mom and Dad to show up at the ceremony, but they were at Jake's basketball game. My artwork got shoved in a drawer. His trophies took over the fireplace. He needs more encouragement, Mom would say, her voice soft but final. I learned early to swallow my disappointment. By 16, the favoritism was undeniable. Jake got a shiny used Ford Mustang for his birthday. Me. Dad handed me a bus schedule and said, "You'll appreciate it more if you earn it." I worked weekends and summers to buy a beat-up Chevy with brakes that screeched like a wounded animal. When Jake dented his car at a party, Mom and Dad paid for repairs without a word. I kept my head down, saving every penny, dreaming of a future where my hard work would finally matter. College was the final straw. With a 3.8 GPA and every free extracurricular I could squeeze in, I set my sights on Savannah College of Art and Design for graphic design. I landed a partial scholarship, but my college fund, gone. Mom and Dad had poured it into Jake's first failed startup app that went nowhere. "It's a big opportunity for him," Dad said, as if my dreams didn't count. I ended up at a state university, juggling 35-hour work weeks and student loans. While Jake bounced from one parent-funded flop to another, I moved out at 20, renting a cramped apartment in a rough part of town where the elevator's been out of service since I arrived. My life became a blur of work and sleep, with barely a moment to breathe. My only confidant was Zoe, a coworker at the coffee shop with electric green hair and a knack for listening. "You deserve better, Ellie," she'd say over our short breaks. I'd force a smile, unsure if I believed her. All I had was a small metal box under my bed, holding $500 in savings, my lifeline for someday starting my own design studio. It was my secret, my hope, until it wasn't. Ever dash through a downpour, clutching slippery pizza boxes, your shoes soaked through, while your sibling partied with money they didn't earn. That was me, Ellie Harper, scraping by in a small Ohio town, fighting to keep my head above water. My brother Jake, 26, lived the easy life, bankrolled by our parents, Tom and Linda, while I was left to fend for myself. But one brutal betrayal, when they stole my hard-earned savings, pushed me to my breaking point. It wasn't just about the money. It was a lifetime of being invisible. That night, something in me snapped, setting the stage for a transformation I never saw coming. Stick around, you won't believe the twist that changed everything. Growing up in our middle-class Ohio neighborhood, our 2-story house with its neat lawn screamed American dream. But inside, it was a different story. The favoritism started small, like a paper cut you don't notice until it stings. At 8, I poured my heart into a watercolor painting for a school art contest. Winning second place, I stood alone at the award ceremony, scanning the crowd for Mom and Dad. They were at Jake's basketball game, cheering for a kid who barely made the bench. My certificate ended up in a kitchen drawer. Jake's participation ribbon got prime real estate on the fireplace mantel. "Boys need more encouragement," Mom said softly. Her words a bandage that never stuck. I learned to swallow the hurt, but each slight carved a little deeper. By high school, the pattern was undeniable. At 16, Jake's birthday rolled around, and Mom and Dad surprised him with a used Ford Mustang Red. Shiny, the kind of car that turned heads. 6 months later, my birthday came, and I got a bus schedule and a pat on the back. "You'll appreciate it more if you earn it," Dad said, his voice firm, like he was doing me a favor. I worked weekends and summers at a grocery store, bagging cans and mopping floors, until I could afford a 15-year-old Chevy with brakes that screeched like a dying cat. When Jake dented his Mustang at a party, too drunk to care, Mom and Dad paid for the repairs without a word. Me, I was replacing my own bald tires, counting pennies to make it work. I threw myself into school, pulling a 3.8 GPA while juggling part-time jobs. I joined every free extracurricular art club, debate team, anything to build my resume, dreaming of studying graphic design at Savannah College of Art and Design. I taught myself Photoshop on a clunky library computer because art classes were too expensive. Yet somehow, there was always money for Jake's basketball gear or his latest harebrained idea. He'd talk big about disrupting industries, but his plans never lasted past the first pitch. Still, Mom and Dad poured cash into his dreams, calling it supporting his potential. The real gut punch came when I got into college. I'd earned a partial scholarship to Savannah. But my college fund, the one Mom and Dad swore they'd saved for both of us, was gone. They'd funneled it into Jake's first startup, a food truck app that crashed and burned in 6 months. "It's an investment in his future," Dad said, brushing off my shock like it was nothing. "You're smart. Ellie, you'll figure it out with loans." So I went to a state university, drowning in debt, working 35 hours a week to cover tuition and rent. Jake. He dropped out of community college after 1 semester to chase another big idea funded by our parents. Each one flopping harder than the last. Inside, I was a stormanger, hurt, and a voice whispering, I'd never be enough. I channeled that fire into my graphic design side hustle, building a portfolio between shifts at Brood Awakening and Tony's Pizzeria. Every late night sketching logos, every skipped meal to save $1, was for one goal: my own design studio. I stashed $3 out of $500 in a small metal box under my bed, hidden behind old sketchbooks. It was my lifeline, my proof that I could build something without them. I thought it was safe until it wasn't. One Tuesday, after a soul-crushing double-shift coffee spills at the shop, a broken pizza oven, and 3 deliveries with 0 tips, I dragged myself home to my crumbling apartment. The elevator was out of service, as always. So I climbed 4 flights, my legs screaming. I checked my savings box, a habit to remind myself I was moving forward. It was empty. $3,500, every cent I'd scraped together, gone. My heart pounded as I tore through my room, hoping I'd misplaced it. But the truth sank in like a stone. I grabbed the box and drove to my parents' house, my hands shaking on the wheel. Mom answered the door, her face pale, eyes darting away. Ellie, what's wrong? She asked. But she knew. I held up the empty box. Where's my money? She hesitated, then spilled the truth. Jake had been at my place, borrowing some old clothes, and found the box. He told Mom, and she took the money to pay off debts from his latest failure, a delivery app that tanked due to his sloppy management. We're family. Ellie, she said, her voice pleading. Jake needed it to save his business. I exploded. Family. I worked myself to death for that money. Every cent was mine, and you stole it to bail out Jake again. My voice cracked. Years of resentment pouring out. My art awards, My college fund? Now this. Everything I've built gets torn down for his messes. Dad stepped in, his face hard. Don't be selfish. Ellie, we're all struggling. Struggling. They lived in a cozy house while I scraped by in a sketchy neighborhood, dodging noisy neighbors and broken pipes. Jake, sprawled on the couch, didn't even look up. You've always chosen him, I said, tears burning my eyes. I'm done being your afterthought. Mom's eyes filled with tears. But Dad doubled down. You're strong. Ellie, you don't need our help like he does. The words hit like a slap. Strong. I laughed bitterly. I had no choice. You made me invisible. I stormed out, the empty box in my hand, my chest tight with rage and betrayal. Driving home, tears blurred the road, but something shifted inside me. I wasn't just angry, I was done. Done begging for scraps of their attention, done letting their choices define me. I'd build my future alone, no matter what it took. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the weight of their betrayal heavy but oddly clarifying. I'd been carrying their neglect my whole life, but I was more than their second choice. I was Ellie Harper's mart, scrappy, and ready to fight for myself. Little did I know. A rainy night and a voice from the past were about to hand me the chance to prove it. The universe, it seemed, had one last surprise up its sleeve. The betrayal hit like a freight train $3,500. Every cent I'd clawed together through endless shifts, stolen by my own family to prop up Jake's latest failure, driving away from my parents' house. The empty metal box sat on the passenger seat, a cold reminder of their priorities. My whole life, I'd been their afterthought, the strong one who didn't need help. But that night, something inside me snapped, not just anger, but a fierce resolve. I was done begging for scraps of their respect. I'd carve my own path, no matter how brutal the fight. Little did I know. A stormy night and a voice from my past were about to blow my world wide open, offering a chance I never saw coming. It was a Friday, and the rain came down like the sky was furious, pelting my battered Chevy as I delivered pizzas for Tony's Pizzeria. My wipers, half dead, smeared the windshield into a blurry mess, forcing me to squint through the downpour. My hands burned from juggling hot pizza boxes, my cracked skin stinging under the cheap lotion I kept in the glove box. My uniform red polo, Tony stitched in fading white, was soaked through, clinging to me like a second skin. Every delivery that night had been a slog rude customers, wrong addresses, and tips so measly I wondered why I bothered. My body ached from 70-hour work weeks. My head throbbed from too much caffeine and too little sleep, but I pushed through. Quitting wasn't in my vocabulary, not after everything ID survived. The last delivery of the night took me to a ritzy neighborhood on the edge of our small Ohio town, where million-dollar homes hid behind perfect hedges and wrought iron gates. It'd been here before big houses, bigger egos, and tips that rarely matched the wealth on display. This house was no different, lit up like a Christmas tree, music thumping so loud I could feel it in my chest. A party. Great. I parked my Chevy, its engine rattling ominously, and grabbed 4 extra-large pizzas, balancing them under a flimsy umbrella that was losing its war against the storm. My sneakers squelched with every step up the cobblestone walkway, water seeping into my socks, chilling my feet to the bone. By the time I reached the door, I was a drowned rat. My pizza delivery cap dripping onto my nose. A guy in his 20s, wearing a backward baseball cap and holding a beer, answered the door. He looked me up and down, a smirk curling his lips as he took in my soggy state. "Pizza's here," he yelled over his shoulder, earning a chorus of cheers from inside. He fumbled with his wallet, nearly dropping it, and shoved $80 into my hand for a $78 order. A $2 tip for hauling 4 pizzas through a monsoon real classy. "Thanks," I muttered, my customer service voice barely masking my irritation as I turned to leave. Someone inside laughed. Make her wait in the rain for the plates. More laughter followed, sharp and mocking. I gritted my teeth. Trudging back to my car, rain now running down my neck, soaking my collar. Perfect end to a perfect day. I thought bitterly. Ellie Harper. A voice cut through the storm, sharp and familiar, stopping me dead in my tracks. I spun around, squinting through the rain at a figure standing under a large black umbrella. She stepped into the glow of a street lamp, and my breath caught in my throat. It's Clara. Clara Bennett. Don't you remember me? My mind raced back to childhood Thanksgivings, hazy memories of a woman with warm eyes and a quick laugh, always slipping me an extra slice of pie when Mom wasn't looking. Clara, my dad's old friend, had been a fixture in our lives until she wasn't vanishing after some vague falling out I was too young to understand. Now. She stood before me. Older, but striking. Her tailored coat and sleek hair a stark contrast to my drenched, defeated self. "What are you doing delivering pizzas in this storm?" she asked. Her voice laced with concern, not pity. I froze, suddenly self-conscious in my Tony's polo, water dripping from my cap. "It's my second job." I stammered, my face burning despite the cold. "Long story." Clara tilted her head, her eyes searching mine. "I've got time. Tell me." Maybe it was the exhaustion or the raw edge of my family's betrayal, but I let it spill the two jobs. The student loans that felt like a noose. The graphic design, dreams it buried under survival. I didn't mention the stolen savings. That wound was too fresh, too personal. But Clara listened, really listened, her expression growing more troubled with every word. Then she dropped a bombshell that hit harder than the rain. "Your dad turned down my offer years ago," she said, her voice steady but heavy. "When you were in high school, I offered to invest in both you and Jake, set up a fund for your futures. He called it charity. Said he didn't need my help. His pride shut it down." My jaw dropped, the words sinking in like a slow poison. Dad had blocked a chance at a better life for me. All to save face. All those years of scraping by, of watching Jake get handouts, while I got lectures about responsibility. It could have been different. My mind reeled, piecing together the puzzle of my family's choices. Clara's eyes softened, reading my shock. "I didn't know it got this bad for you." "Ellie." She reached into her purse and pulled out a business card, the embossed logo of Harper Creative glinting under the streetlight. "I'm the creative director at Harper Creative now," she said. "We're a top-ed agency, and we're always looking for fresh talent. Send me your portfolio. No promises. But I see something in you, fire. Grit. You're not meant to be out here in the rain." I took the card, my fingers trembling, not just from the cold. Suspicion battled hope in my chest. Was this real? Or another setup for disappointment? I'd learned the hard way not to trust easy offers. But Clara's gaze was steady, not patronizing, and something in it reminded me of the woman who'd once seen me, even when my own family didn't. "I'll send it," I said, my voice barely audible over the rain. She nodded, extending her umbrella to shield me for a moment longer. "Good. Get out of this storm. Ellie, you deserve better." I watched her walk back to the house, her figure fading into the party's glow. Driving home, my mind was a tornado. Dad's refusal, Clara's offer, the possibility of something more, for the first time in years. Someone had seen me. Not Jake's shadow, not the strong daughter who didn't need help. I clutched the card like a lifeline, its edges digging into my palm. My apartment was cold and dark when I got back. But as I sat at my rickety desk, staring at Clara's card, a spark ignited. That rainy night. I didn't know it yet, but everything was about to change. Clara's card sat on my desk, its crisp edges a stark contrast to my cluttered, crumbling apartment that rainy night. Her words about my dad's refusal of her investment, about seeing fire in Malit, something I hadn't felt in years possibility, the sting of my family's betrayal, stealing my $500 savings to bail out Jake's latest flop, still burned. But I wasn't going to let it define me. I'd been invisible too long. It was time to fight for myself, not just to survive, but to thrive. What I didn't expect was how that fight would reshape not just my life, but my entire family's. I spent the next 3 days obsessing over my portfolio, polishing every design, agonizing over every pixel. Harper Creative wasn't just any ad agency, it was a powerhouse. Known for sleek branding and cutting-edge campaigns, their work was bold, precise, the kind that made you stop scrolling and stare. I pored over their website, studying their clean interfaces and vibrant visuals, my stomach nodding with doubt. Was I good enough? My designs, cobbled together on a borrowed laptop between coffee shop shifts, felt amateur by comparison, but Clara's voice echoed in my head, "I see something in you." I hit send on the portfolio email, my heart pounding, and waited. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with an email from Clara's assistant. They wanted me to interview with Jennifer, the design director, in their downtown office. I read it 3 times, half expecting it to vanish. The interview was in 48 hours. I barely slept, spending every spare moment prepping, tweaking my portfolio, rehearsing answers, scrounging for a decent outfit from my thrift store wardrobe. I quit my pizza delivery job that same day. A terrifying leap. The pay was barely enough to cover gas, but it freed up evenings to focus on this chance. I kept my weekend shifts at Brood Awakening for a safety net, though Zoe, my green-haired coworker, grinned when I told her. "You're gonna kill it. Ellie," she said, sliding me an extra espresso, "this is your shot." The Harper Creative office was a world apart from my rundown apartment, a gleaming tower with glass walls, living greenery, and a hum of quiet ambition. I felt like an imposter in my ironed blouse and secondhand blazer, clutching my portfolio like a shield. Clara met me in the lobby, her smile warm but professional. Jennifer's tough but fair. She warned as we rode the elevator to the 24th floor. She doesn't care who you know. Show her what you can do. My palms sweated as we entered a sleek conference room where Jennifer waited, her sharp bob and no-nonsense glasses giving her the air of someone who didn't waste time. "Ellie Harper," Jennifer said, glancing up from her tablet, her tone neutral. "Clara says you've got potential. Let's see it." She didn't mention my dad or Clara's connection, which both relieved and unnerved me. For the next hour, she dissected my portfolio with surgical precision, questioning my font choices, challenging my color palettes, probing my process. "This layout's cluttered," she said, pointing to a poster I'd spent weeks on, "but your visual hierarchy's strong. You've got instinct." Her critique was brutal but fair, pushing me to articulate my choices in ways I'd never had to before. By the end, I was drained but oddly exhilarated. No one had ever taken my work this seriously. "We have a paid internship program," Jennifer said, closing my portfolio. 3 months, hands-on projects, modest pay. It's not glamorous, but it's real work. Not fetching coffee. You'd report to me. Can you handle that with your other job? My heart raced. The internship hours clashed with my morning coffee shifts, and the pay wouldn't cover both my rent and loans. But this was it, the door I'd been pounding on for years. "I'll make it work," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Jennifer nodded, her expression unreadable. "Start Monday, 9 a.m. Don't be late." I floated out of that office, barely believing it. For the first time, someone valued my talent, not my last name or my family drama. I called Zoe from the parking lot, my voice shaking with excitement. "I got it." She whooped so loud I had to pull the phone away. Told you. Ellie, you're a badass. That afternoon, I had a tough talk with my coffee shop manager. She was kind, offering to keep me on for weekend shifts. You're too good to lose, she said. It was a lifeline. But my budget would be razor thin until the internship paid off. The first weeks at Harper Creative were a whirlwind. I shadowed designers, soaking up their workflow, show they balanced client demands with creative vision. How they used software I'd only dreamed of accessing. Imposter syndrome hit hard. Everyone seemed so polished. Tossing around terms like iterative prototyping while I scrambled to keep up. I stayed late most nights, practicing techniques, studying industry blogs, anything to close the gap. Jennifer noticed. Dedications. Good, she said one evening, finding me at my desk at 8 p.m. But burnout's real. Pace yourself. Her bluntness was a strange comfort, no sugarcoating. Just truth, under Jennifer's guidance. My skills sharpened fast. She assigned me small tasks, mock-ups for social media, logo tweaks for minor clients, and her feedback was ruthless but constructive. Your typography's sloppy here, she'd say, circling a design. Fix it. And you've got something. Slowly. I stopped second-guessing every move. My first real project, creating social media graphics for a local nonprofit, went live under Harper's brand. Seeing my work out in the world, not just on my laptop, felt like a victory I couldn't describe. But my family's shadow loomed. A month into the internship, Jake called, his voice tight. The business tanked. Ellie, investors pulled out. Mom and Dad are in trouble. I drove to their house, my stomach churning. The lawn was overgrown, the mailbox stuffed with unopened bills. Mom answered, her usual polish gone hair messy, eyes tired. What's happening? I asked. She sighed, sinking onto the couch. They'd taken a second mortgage and drained their retirement savings for Jake's delivery app, the same one they'd used my $3,500 to prop up. Now, they faced losing the house. Why didn't you tell me? I demanded. Dad, home from the store with generic brand groceries? Scoffed. So you could gloat. Say I told you so. His words stung, but I held my ground. I'm your daughter. I deserve to know. Mom's voice broke. We were ashamed. Ellie, after taking your money, that admission hit hard. They knew they'd wronged me, but did it anyway. I was furious. But the thought of them homeless, after 30 years in that house, twisted something in me. I couldn't walk away. But I wouldn't enable them either. Ill help, I said. But on my terms. I laid out conditions they'd meet with a financial advisor I'd pay for, cut their lavish spending, and join family therapy to face the favoritism head-on. Jake had to get a real job, no more startups on their dime. Dad bristled. You're not in charge here. Mom cut him off. A new steel in her voice. She's right. Tom, we've failed her too long. Jake, silent until now, muttered. This is unfair. I turned to him. Unfair. I lost everything because you couldn't manage a business. Step up or stay out of it. Therapy was tense at first. Dr. Ellis, our counselor, pushed us to unpack decades of dysfunction. Dad admitted his favoritism stemmed from his own childhood, always in his brother's shadow. I didn't want Jake to feel less, he said, his voice cracking, but I made you feel that way. Ellie, Mom confessed to enabling it, too afraid to challenge Dad. I saw it, and I let it happen. I'm sorry, Jake squirmed, defensive, but Dr. Ellis didn't let him off. You've leaned on their support without questioning it. She told him. That's privilege, not entitlement. Jake resisted but took an entry-level job at a retail chain, grumbling about cubicle life. Meanwhile, I hired a financial advisor who mapped out a plan to save their house, smaller payments, slashed expenses, no more bailouts. I contributed $2,000 from my internship savings as a formal loan. With a contract they signed, Mom started selling baked goods to neighbors. A small step toward their recovery. Slowly. They faced reality. At Harper Creative. My confidence grew. Jennifer gave me bigger projects, like a branding package for a local cafe. When the client praised my work, I felt a pride I'd never known. My first paycheck covered rent without panic, and I moved to a better apartment with working heat and quiet neighbors. I called Mom to share the news, but her response was lukewarm. An internship at your age, she said. Shouldn't you have a real job? Dad was worse. Clara's using you to get at me, he insisted. She's always had an agenda. Their dismissal hurt, but I was done seeking their approval. I was building something real, and no one could take that away. The internship at Harper Creative had reshaped me, turning my raw talent into something sharp and purposeful. I wasn't just Ellie Harper, the overlooked daughter anymore. I was a designer carving her own path, proving my worth with every project. But my family's dysfunction still cast a long shadow. Their financial ruin, fueled by Jake's failures and their own choices, loomed large, and the stolen 3 out of 500 of my savings was a wound that hadn't healed. I'd set strict conditions to help them therapy. Financial discipline. Jake getting a job, but as I stood on the edge of a career-defining moment, I wondered if we could truly mend what was broken. What I didn't expect was how one bold project and a single Thanksgiving dinner would tie every loose end into a resolution. I'd never dared to dream of 6 months into my internship. Jennifer called me into her office, a rare occurrence that set my nerves on edge. Clara was there too, her expression unreadable. Your internship ended a month ago, Jennifer began, her voice as direct as ever. We've kept you on to evaluate your work. My stomach dropped. Had I fallen short? Despite the late nights, the relentless learning curve, the small wins, had it not been enough. Jennifer slid a folder across her desk. The healthcare rebranding project you contributed to. It's getting industry buzz. Clients are asking for you by name. We're offering you a full-time junior designer position salary bump. Benefits. Clear growth path. I blinked at the offer letter. The salary figure, triple what I'd made slinging coffee and pizza, making my head spin. Take the weekend to think it over, Clara added, a faint smile breaking through her professional calm. This isn't about connections, Ellie. It's about what you bring. I walked out, clutching the folder, my heart pounding with a mix of disbelief and pride. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving, I was winning. On my terms. That same week, Jennifer threw me a curveball. We've got a big client, she said, dropping a brief on my desk. A regional nonprofit needs a full rebrand logo, website, campaign materials. I want you to lead it. Lead. I was barely out of intern status, still learning the ropes. It's a stretch, she admitted, reading my doubt. But your instincts are solid, and you've proven you can handle pressure. I'll oversee. But this is your show. The responsibility terrified me. What if I choked? What if I proved Dad right that I was nothing without Clara's charity? But Jennifer's faith, hard-earned and never given lightly, pushed me forward. The project consumed me. I spent weeks researching the nonprofit's mission supporting at-risk youth, drawing on my own experiences of feeling unseen. I sketched late into the night. My apartment now a cozy one-bedroom with actual sunlight. A far cry from the dingy place I'd left behind. My designs leaned into bold colors and clean lines, reflecting hope and resilience. Jennifer's feedback was relentless but razor-sharp, refining my work into something I barely recognized as my own. When I presented the final package to the client, their CEO teared up. "This captures who we are," she said. "You've given us a voice." The project launched to rave reviews, earning a regional design award and cementing my place at Harper Creative. The victory was intoxicating. But my family's crisis tugged at me. Therapy had cracked open old wounds, forcing us to face the favoritism that shaped my life. Dad's admission that he'd favored Jake to spare him the insecurity he'd felt growing up had been a start. But progress was messy. Jake, now working retail, grumbled about selling out. But he showed up every day, a grudging step toward accountability. Mom, selling her baked goods to chip away at their debt, was trying to repay my stolen $3,500, though the installments were small. They'd followed the financial advisor's plan, cutting expenses and avoiding foreclosure. But the house was still on shaky ground. One evening, as I polished my award speech, my phone rang. It was Jake, his voice low. "I saw you on the news. Ellie, that award pretty big deal." I braced for a jab, but he surprised me. "I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry about the money, about everything." It wasn't a full apology, but it was more than I'd ever gotten. "Thanks," I said, cautious. "How's the job?" He sighed. "Sucks sometimes. But I got a raise. Feels different. Earning it, for the first time." I heard a flicker of self-awareness in his voice. The real test came at Thanksgiving, a year after that rainy night when Clara found me delivering pizzas. I almost skipped the family dinner. Resentment still simmered. And work gave me an easy out, but Mom's quiet plea changed my mind. "We need you here. Ellie." Their house looked different now. Humbler. The luxury car was gone, replaced by a used sedan. The dining table, once set with fine china, held simple dishes, but the warmth was new. Jake arrived with his girlfriend, Mia. His usual swagger softened. Mom, bustling with her homemade pies, seemed lighter, like she'd shed a weight. Dad, quieter than I'd ever seen, greeted me with a hesitant nod. Clara joined us. A bold move, I'd suggested. Her presence was a bridge between past grudges and a new start. Dinner started tense, conversation stilted, but Mom broke the ice. "Ellie, tell us about your award." I hesitated, expecting dismissal. But they listened, really listened, as I described the project. The late nights, the client's tears. Jake chimed in. "Saw it online. It's legit good." Dad's eyes flicked to Clara, a shadow of old bitterness, but he stayed silent. After dinner, as we sipped coffee in the living room, Dad cleared his throat. "I need to say something," he began, his voice unsteady. "This year's been hell. We almost lost everything: money, this house, each other. But we gained something too. Truth." He looked at me, eyes glistening. "Ellie, I failed you, not just with the money, but your whole life. I saw Jake's potential, but ignored yours. I was wrong, and I'm so damn proud of you." The words I'd waited years to hear washed over me, raw and real. They didn't erase the past, but they cracked open a door to something new. Mom reached for my hand. "I enabled it," she said, her voice breaking. I saw the unfairness and stayed quiet. "I'm sorry, and I'm trying to make it right." She'd paid back $100,000 of my savings, a gesture that meant more than the money itself. Jake shifted. Uncomfortable. "I didn't get it before," he said. "How much I took from you. I'm trying to do better. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start." Clara spoke up, her voice gentle. "Families mess up, but they can heal. Ellie, you force them to face themselves. That's rare." Dad glanced at her, the old grudge flickering, but he nodded. "You were right about her," he said quietly. "She's stronger than I ever was." The room fell silent, the weight of years lifting, replaced by a fragile hope. As I drove home, the Ohio night crisp and clear, I felt lighter than I had in years. The award, the job, the family reckoning, they weren't just wins. They were proof I'd built something unbreakable. Harper Creative promoted me to junior designer the next month, my salary letting me breathe without fear of the next bill. Jake stuck with his job, earning a promotion to shift lead. his first taste of real pride. Mom and Dad kept up therapy. Their house safe for now, their bond with me slowly rebuilding. Clara became my mentor, guiding me through industry events and connecting me with clients. I started mentoring interns at Harper Creative, sharing my story to show them they could rise, no matter their start. That Thanksgiving, surrounded by a family learning to see me, I realized I hadn't just survived, it'd become unstoppable. A year ago, I was Ellie Harper, drenched and unseen, hauling pizzas through an Ohio storm, my $3,500 savings stolen to prop up Jake's latest failure. I was the strong daughter, handed bus schedules while he got cars, my dreams buried under family favoritism. But Clara's offer at Harper Creative ignited something fierce through grit and late nights. I turned pain into power. Becoming a designer who didn't just survive, I soared. And somehow, I helped my family rewrite their story. Life's not fair. Some, like Jake, get handouts. Others, like me, scrap for every inch. But those battles make you unstoppable. Every shift, every design, every stand against my family's neglect built my worth. That nonprofit rebranding award, my junior designer role there, proof you can rise above. Therapy forced Dad to face his bias. Mom her silence. Jake his privilege. Their apologies didn't erase the hurt. But that Thanksgiving, with Clara there, showed families can heal by choosing growth. Maybe you've been the underdog, grinding for less recognition. Your value doesn't need their approval. Send that application. Set that boundary. Chase your dream, it's yours to claim. I still sling coffee some weekends at Brood Awakening, not for money, but to stay grounded. Mentoring interns now. I see my struggles in their doubts and say belonging comes from showing up, not starting perfect. What's your fight? Ever felt overlooked but kept pushing? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. If my journey sparked something in you, smash that like button to show some love and hit subscribe for more stories of beating the odds. Don't forget to tap the bell so you never miss a tale of grit and triumph. Storms don't define you. Your rise does. Thanks for listening, and keep fighting.